All right, good morning. I'm Jen Hurd. Welcome to the Thrive Through Life Change event. We're going to learn how to regain powerful energy, create an inspiring vision, and a balanced life in spite of everything going on around us right now. I'm a professional organizer by trade, and I have been for over 30 years. And I decided to create this event because over the years, I worked one-on-one with client after client. And some of them, when they're going through life change, transition very smoothly, and others just don't. They get stuck, they get hurt, they get upset, they just are entrenched, and then they call me. So I really wanted to help people to avert this disaster, these catastrophic problems. And, I've had my share of them in my life as well. So I thought I'm going to pull together a whole bunch of experts who I would want to have heard from when I was going through a big life change and who can show that there's really no major life change that you can't overcome. So these experts, including my guest today, are going to discuss how they've overcome these situations and how they've thrived in these situations and how we all can too. So my first guest today is Allison Graham, and she's a resiliency expert. She's an author and she's a media commentator as well, and she inspires professionals to think differently about stress, about obstacles, about adversity. She has a fresh perspective on daily resilience. So the result is lowered stress levels, better work results, and more confidence to navigate your changes and challenges without drama in the workplace or in your personal life as well. So Allison, hi, I'm excited to talk to you today.
It's going to be awesome to talk with you, and I get to see you face to face. It'd be nice if we were in person, but
I know we're not too far away, not just a few hours, but
yeah,
we share a love of the Great Lakes.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So for many years, Allison, you worked in the corporate realm. So you taught resilience for business professionals. And you have a book on Amazon. I love the title, How to Be Resilient When Life Sucks. I think we all can identify with this book right in this very moment. So
Absolutely.
you're all feeling that way, hop on Amazon. We'll provide you the location of that book, but we'll also talk to Allison about it. So tell us a little bit about how that book came about. I just love it.
Well, and the How to Be Resilient When Life Sucks is the subtitle of the book, right? And so the title is even more funny or funnier is married my mom, birthed a dog. And I know that sounds ridiculous. And it really was about what happened in my life. See, I was going hard like so many of us, right? Give. I went to 241 events in 1 year.
Ooh.
I was so committed and to giving everybody else everything they needed that I was not looking after myself.
Right.
And often there comes a breaking point and the universe steps in for us. And
Right.
It did. And what happened was I went in for a fairly routine surgery, came out in severe pain, ended up with neuropathic damage.
Oh.
And 5 surgeries later, trying to fix the schmozzle from the first, hundreds of doctor's appointments in and out of the hospital. And it all culminated on one day when I was like ugly crying in front of my neurologist in the hospital and just like screaming at him going, you have to take the pain away. You have to take the pain away. I can't handle it another second.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to go on disability.
Oh.
He wanted me to, he's like, Allison, the pain's never going away.
Oh, no.
You are never going to work full time again. And you need to reevaluate your expectations for your life. And I knew that that was not the answer.
No.
So he said the magic words to me. He said, well, then you need to figure out how to be resilient.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know what that meant. Like, right. And often we hear like the little lines, right? Like, don't sweat the small stuff, or you'll bounce back, or don't take it personally. And all of those are well-intentioned, but they're not effective. Like when you're actually dealing with the suckage, right? Like when you're in the middle of it, that's somebody telling you to calm down, or don't take it personally, or one day you'll get over it, or time heals all wounds. It's not going to help you get through it. So that became the beginning of my journey to try to figure out, how do I continue to excel and have this life I love, even though I've got all these challenges going on around me. And like any independent, successful woman might do, I called my mama. I said, hey, why don't you come hang out with me? And by the way, you can be my chauffeur and you can take me to my gigs. And because I was really struggling to drive and a lot of other things. So anyway, now I no longer am married to my mom, although some days it still feels like it, but like obviously not legitimately. I mean, that's a joke, right?
Right. No, I get it.
Sarcastic
I totally get it.
But, you know, I think the thing is we all go through difficult times in our lives. And there were, you know, 6 people who died. I had 8 injuries, but we all go through something when it feels like, you know, the punches won't stop.
Yeah.
But you still have to show up. You have to show up as a parent. You have to show up as a, you know, whatever job you have, you know, you have to show up as a friend, as a spouse, maybe like whatever your life circumstances are. You don't just get to push pause
right
until COVID. And then we're all in it.
Reaching halt. Hi.
Reaching halt.
Yeah.
But you know, what's interesting is the way that we would normally instinctively deal with an adversity. Somebody we love dies, or we go through a divorce or a big life change, some sort of a diagnosis of sorts, is we would turn to the people we love. We would turn to our coworkers. We would turn to someone who wasn't in a state of emergency, who could help us, right?
Yeah, to anchor us.
Right. And they would be our sort of the person we could lean on. And then the thing is, but here we all are in this society, this whole world is standing on the edge of the same cliff. You know, the path we were on no longer exists.
Right.
And so a lot of those, even, you know, how many times have I talked to professionals and their answer to hurt or grief or anything that they don't like is to bury themselves in work.
Oh, I did it. I did it with my divorce.
There you go.
Oh yeah, totally. I know that.
Right. So
I got a job at IKEA and I walked 12 miles a day. I just had to.
There you go.
I opened the IKEA store in Tempe. Like I worked at the front door greeting people for 12 days in a row. I just was in a sea of people.
Yep.
And that was my solution.
Right. And in actual fact, so it's a part of the denial, right? Like my doc used to call it my gotta go technique. I don't like it over here, so I gotta go over there. And if I was busy enough over here, I could pretend that this wasn't happening.
Yeah, right.
And for a short period of time, that can actually be a really great coping mechanism, instinctually.
Oh yeah.
Long term, very bad for us.
Oh sure. And once you stop, once all the busyness was over, you know, then your health, your mental capacity, everything just kind of goes to, you know, hell in a handbasket, as they say, because you have to reckon with it at some point.
Yes.
All you've done is delay it.
Right. And probably actually made it worse.
Yeah, probably.
Because of the worrying about it, the avoiding it actually intensifies it. And when you think about emotion, right? Emotions, it's energy in motion.
Yeah.
So if they're stuck, something's going to give. Like at some point, it's going to explode. Yeah. And anyway, so
like a lot of people do now. I mean, that's what's happening in the COVID reality. You know, people are stuck at home with people that they're not getting along with, or they're in abusive situations, or they're, you know, dealing with their job where it's just not their job anymore, or, you know, not what they thought it was going to be, certainly. And there's a lot of that frustration, and a lot of it's not getting dealt with. And so there's going to be a lot of mental health and, you know, repercussions, I think, in the next 6 months to a year. And that's part of the reason for this, is just to be supportive and say, look, this is everyone's reality right now.
Yeah.
You know, we're all in this. So how can we best find our way out and get that resilience that you talk about? And
I think it's really important to make the distinction that we're all in this, but that doesn't mean we're all in the depths of despair.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right? No, there are a lot of people who are thriving during this time. A lot of people who are feeling joyful during this time. One of my YouTube videos is, how do you still be happy when money is tight?
Yeah.
Right? Sure. Like, because the two don't need to be related to each other.
Oh yeah.
Like you can still feel joyful and happy and on fire with your life and optimistic and, you know, all these wonderful, great things, even when the world, and I don't mean power of positive thinking, like pretend it's all rosy. And if you just like say enough good things, right, it won't feel bad. No,
but you
we
can
got to
bring
validate
joy to every day. Yeah, you can bring
Yes.
joy into that day.
Yes.
One way or the other. You can find it. You can, if you seek it out. And the key is to seek it out, I think. I think people forget they have the ability to do that.
Right.
You know, there's going to be something or some place that just makes you truly happy that you can access. Even if it's here.
Yeah,
You know.
and it takes a commitment. So one thing, little tip, because I know you really want to give attendees like some takeaways.
Really
right?
want to get into a concept, that we can.
So one of the things, like I used to have a horrible self-talk. Okay, I don't know if you've ever experienced this.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
100%.
So, and I would say things that like if I wrote them out, it was like, oh, maybe that's not factual, or maybe that's not, you know, whatever. So a couple things we can do. Number one, give your internal voice an external presence.
Okay.
So as you're walking by the mirror and you say, oh my God, I'm so fat, right? I don't know if you've ever said that. You probably haven't.
Oh,
I have many a time. Or, oh my God, I look awful. Or I'm resting and then I'm judging myself for resting and saying, oh my gosh, I'm so lazy.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Okay. Oh yeah. Moms do that all the time. Yeah.
Oh, poor moms. Yeah. Like absolutely. So grab a Post-it note, keep them everywhere and write it out. Oh my God, I'm so fat. And actually look at it. And that will start to bring some awareness to it. Second thing you want to do is that when I think so often we try to say, oh, I'm never going to have negative self-talk again. Yeah. Well, that's not possible. Right? Because it's completely unrealistic. Then a day later, you wake up in the morning, you walk by a mirror, you say something mean to yourself, and then you're like, oh, now I'm a failure, and you give up on your goal.
Now you've double kicked yourself.
You double kicked yourself, pure judgment, right? So what we do, I really believe our goal is not to change the first response.
Okay.
Our goal is to interrupt the first response faster and choose the second.
Good. That makes such sense.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden we go, oh my gosh, look at me. This looks awful, as we walk by a mirror.
Right.
And then we recognize it. We go, oh, wait a second. I don't want to say that about myself. And then I would force myself to stand there until I could say something positive. Yeah. So the second, because eventually what happens is you outweigh the first. Right? Yeah. Like you start adding on something positive. Yeah. So that's one way, because I think in this time, because everything has shifted, the way you relax, the way you, work out, the way you shop, like everything is different. So there's a lot of judgment, a lot of judgment. And so I'm just trying to interrupt the pattern of self-judgment for people because that will take everything and make your life harder. Yeah. Stop making your life harder. Than it needs
first,
to
when
be.
You do that, don't do that. Yeah. It's just like, but it is a process of thought stopping. You know, it is a technique. It's a cognitive behavioral technique, I think, where you just, you're basically you have to be more objective about the thought and then grab hold of it and say, that's not what the thought needs to be, Right.
And if the thought happens, we just can't judge the thought. We just have to then choose another thought. Yeah. It's like thought stacking.
Stacking. I like that.
Yeah.
Stop and stack.
Stop and stack.
Oh, that's awesome. So in terms of the concepts in the book, I believe that's probably one of them.
That's definitely in there.
Yeah. Are there any other things that we should bring out to the audience that would be of value to you? I know you have this concept of the ice cube. Which is
so this is one of my favorites. Yeah. So the idea is that we all have these tasks and the obstacles that we need to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm not talking about adversity, which is like we're standing on the cliff, like that piece. That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But for the most part, our lives include a whole bunch of repetitive tasks
Sure.
that we have to do and obstacles that we need to deal with. And I like to imagine them as being represented by ice cubes.
Okay.
And your job is to melt the ice cubes as efficiently and effectively as possible. That's it,
Okay.
right? We got to get the dishes done. Zap, let's melt those babies. Get out a hair dryer, however you want to melt these ice cubes. And the sooner we do them, the less fanfare, the more effectively we can melt them.
Okay.
But of course, that's not what we do in our lives.
Right.
We take the ice cubes and we put them in a snowbank and we start packing them with snow. Right? And then we have to still melt the ice cubes. That's still our job. But now we've got a layer of misplaced emotion.
Sure.
Maybe I'm angry that somebody has asked me to do this report, or I'm frustrated because this wasn't done already, or I'm disappointed that somebody didn't keep up their end of the bargain, right?
Right.
And then we add on a little negative storyline. Well, they don't respect me. They don't understand what's wrong with me.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And then we add on barriers to performance, like worrying, procrastination, frequent interruptions, not being able to say no, you name it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the little ice cube we had to do is now the bottom of a snowman. Right?
Right.
And we still have to melt the ice cube.
Yeah.
So if we took something so simple like dishes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Or laundry. Some of my clients really hate laundry.
Hate laundry. So they've got this anger towards the laundry. By the way, you wore the clothes, you got to do the clothes. Right?
Yeah.
So it's just the thing. So if we look at our lives, let's say it's, from our capacity, it's going to take 3 hours out of our week. I don't know. Everybody's a little different. Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably high. The actual art of putting it into the washing machine and taking it out is probably, if you timed it, 5 minutes each side. But anyway, whatever. We don't want to, that's it. But then we let it stack up. Then if you have kids in the home or a spouse in the home or anybody else in the home, you start going, why aren't you doing the laundry?
Oh, yeah.
Now it's become a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then you procrastinate on it. So you're doing all this other stuff. Then you start judging yourself because you're procrastinating on the laundry. And
then you go on strike. Then you go on strike and don't do it for a week.
Then you don't do it, but you still got to do it, right? At some point, somebody's got a desire for clean clothes.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So all of a sudden, this thing that could have taken you 5 minutes to deal with has become a drain unnecessarily on your capacity to do, be, feel, see, hear, exist.
Yeah.
And so we've got to stop turning ice cubes into snowmen.
100%. And there's so many things that can happen with too. I mean, it's just
everything.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine, she's in sales, vice president, like high up in a big company.
Sure.
And we're out for lunch and she's like, for 3 weeks, this has been on my list and I can't believe head office, they disrespect me. They don't understand what's happening on the ground. And, they want me to fill out this new reporting and on and on and on. I think it's time for me to go get a new job. And I'm like, okay, wow, this sounds intense. How long would that take you to do? And she goes back in her chair and she starts laughing. She's like, 15 minutes. Right? 3 weeks of agony for 15 minutes. And I think that if we unpack our lives, there's already enough really, truly difficult things in our life to deal with.
Yeah.
And, I keep trying to remind people that before COVID, it wasn't like everything was rosy.
Oh, no. Yeah,
like we already had our lives, right? We already had stress and we're in over our head and busy and, had relationship issues, all of that. But anytime we allow these ice cubes to become snowmen, what we do is we rob from our capacity to deal with the real stuff.
Yeah.
It's the people in our lives who care about, who are getting the least, like our worst.
Yeah.
because we're getting so tied up over here
Mm-hmm.
on the stuff that doesn't matter.
Right.
Or it matters, because like the laundry matters,
It matters.
but the snow around it
Yeah.
does
All
not
that,
help your quality of life.
all that other clutter, that emotional clutter, whatever it is, all that stuff. Yeah. And it there was, I think it was Louise Hay, I read at one point, she was talking about strings, tasks being strings and all the emotional components of things. But she's like, people can just become like a complete marionette to all that emotional stuff, all those little strings tied to them all day long. And I loved that analogy because it was like, you need to take some scissors and just mentally cut the strings that are stopping you from getting those things accomplished. It's all a drain. It's all a drag. And I've always hung on to that. I've always used that with people too, like just to say, get out your mental scissors. Like, we're going to do some trimming when we go in there, whether it's your system that you don't have. And so you do something in multiple steps that don't need to be, or whether it's you're attaching all that to it and making it worse for yourself. There's got to be a way that we can make this palatable and B, quicker, to accomplish. So then you can, again, retain your capacity and increase it.
Right.
To get the real things, like you said, the real stuff dealt with, which is really what people are in right now. I think there's a lot of real stuff getting dealt with. So yeah. This is huge. So as people are getting their capacity back, let's say they're working on that and they're doing they're melting their ice cubes. They want to start moving into maybe creating a new vision on the other side of all of this that's happening, right? Because there's just whatever the issue may be. I mean, it could just be something in day-to-day life, even without COVID. But when they want to start over and create a new vision for something, and I know you're in the working realm, so maybe we could do it around like a job or something that's been severely impacted. How do they get their mind around that? How do they start fresh a little bit?
Okay, well, there's definitely a whole process, so which we probably don't have time to get into, but I'd love to gift everybody a mini course on this.
Yeah.
So we will be sure that we put that in the summit notes.
Yes.
To get, if that's okay, Jen, and then people can go deeper with this, because I'm going to give you a little teaser,
right?
And then I want to give that to you, and just my gift to you to go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's the key to this is curiosity.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because when we go into self-awareness or we're trying to figure out our next steps, it's really easy to default to judgment.
Oh, okay.
And judgment blocks our creativity and our acceptance of the new. Okay. And I remember when I was really struggling in my business, it wasn't too long ago, actually. It was a bit I wasn't really struggling. I mean, I've had a successful business for a lot of years, right. But I was frustrated.
We all have a moment.
Yeah, I was frustrated because my brand wasn't working. Mm-hmm. And I had put so much effort into this book with the title and threw my heart and soul into it. And I had Resiliency Ninja was all over the book inside. And it just wasn't landing with my corporate clients, or even my business consulting businesses, right? Like my small businesses who I work with.
Sure.
And I was so tied to what was that I was paralyzed to figure out what could be.
Ah, yes.
So I went away with this question in mind.
Okay.
And I said, what if every decision I've ever made for my business was the right decision for me then and is no longer the right decision for me now?
Okay.
And with that question, it's very carefully worded.
Yes.
Because it allows me to be free of judgment or embarrassment,
right,
or shame or frustration that what I chose yesterday wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so from that, I moved forward and I said, okay, I'm going to let go of the Resiliency Ninja brand. Yeah. I'm going to let go of, the book. I'll start using the subtitle and then pull in the real title after, things like that. Right. Yeah. Because it wasn't working as well as I wanted it to. And so I think that's really important, because if people can't see the future, it's because they're too emotionally stuck to the past.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would say that's the case. you want it to be same, you know, and okay, it's not. The cards are going to get thrown in the air. So if that's the case, how do you, you know, be open to that? And how do you not blame yourself for, I think one of the things I heard recently was you have to fail 17 times or something, you know, before you may hit the right thing or whatever. Just, you know, it was a random statistic. But the point was, every time you fail, you learn, right? So even if those things were right at the time, maybe they weren't, right or wrong, you learn something that's going to move you forward because you learned it didn't work. It's like Edison learned how many thousand ways not to make a light bulb, right?
Right.
I mean, but he was enthusiastic because he's like, okay, that's another way that doesn't work. Now I got to find the way that does work because he knew it did. So, and you know, like for example, with your business, there's going to be something that's going to work. Yes. So, you know, but that's the mindset we have to get into, is that curiosity of finding what it is.
Right.
And not being so
curiosity. And the other piece is the self-awareness, right? So a lot of times when people face obstacles, they want to jump right to solution activation.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, is the wrong approach. So we start with situational awareness, getting really clear, what's the ice cube?
Yeah.
So if I'm having a bad day, you know, let's unpack that, because I think sometimes when things are in our head, they tend to get catastrophized, right?
Yeah,
and so we got to be dealing with the fact. So situational awareness, and I have a couple different pieces of that puzzle.
Yeah.
Then the self-awareness. So how am I responding to what is happening? And potentially, how am I inadvertently making it harder to deal with?
Ah, sure.
And then when we have that cleared away, we actually can find the right solution, because often we're creating solutions to the wrong obstacles because we're not so honed into the real issue, to what the ice cube is.
Yeah. So to make that that specific goal or whatever that is very, very specific, so you know exactly what you're.
Well, you may have many ice cubes.
Yeah.
But if you're treating them all like a big snowman and they're all packed in together and we're not looking at them objectively, it's going to be impossible to find the right solution that's going to help melt them.
I got you. Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. So just to take it back to some fun personal, like what have you been doing during this this forced vacation to to keep yourself like, you know, on task? And how do you restructured your day a little bit? I like to share that with people too, so they can see.
Absolutely. So first of all, when my business blew up, because of course I'm a speaker, I speak at conferences and I work with teams in person, and my coaching clients were generally virtual anyway. So that's okay. But when everything blew up, I of course did what everybody does, right? We got to have our first response. You know, got under the table and cried for a little in the fetal position. Right. And then I shifted. So I recognized, first of all, creativity is a really great outlet for me. And if I want to feel more control or more just in flow, I need to be creating. Yeah. And so initially, a lot of my friends were asking me, how do you create online programs so easily? And what do you do? Because I've written 4 books and I've, you know, built and sold many programs online. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's really easy. And they're like, oh, okay. So what I did was I actually filmed myself creating an online course.
Oh, nice.
Showing them absolutely every step of the way so that you can build an online course. Everything from how do you set up your video, how do you edit a video, how do you choose what content to put in, how do you not get overwhelmed. Right. And so I really dove into that, and I've offered a few challenges now. I've done 3 rounds, have had incredible success for my students. They're all publishing their courses after years and years of going, I really want to build an online course. Yeah. I gave them the path to do it in days. Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of that. Great. And then corporately, I actually was able to shift pretty quickly, and I'm offering a virtual program that walks through my whole system over the course of 5 to 6 weeks. Oh, terrific. And I'm doing that virtually. And so that's what I've been doing.
Got your pivot together real quick. That's awesome.
I did. Yes.
Yeah. With on-site organizing, it's a similar situation. We had to figure out how to do virtual, and then we did a lot of virtual advisement and that kind of thing, which has been good. And then the coaching component, obviously, for me is a whole other part of it, because there's a lot to that,
Right.
in terms of dealing with your stuff and dealing
Yeah.
with your stuff. So, you know what I mean.
There's lots of stuff.
Yeah, stuff, the emotional component, whatever. I took a lot of psychology classes when I first started organizing, because I realized very quickly that there's a lot of emotional to the physical. It's all one big thing.
It is.
So I totally get it. So part of it's just, as Allison mentioned, she's going to, for a gift for our viewers or for anyone who's interested, she's going to do her free, it's a free mini course, Take Back Your Weekend. And so that will be available on this page. You'll see there'll be a link to access that. And then if you want to reach out from there, her information will all be contained there, as well as her contact information will be accessible here. You'll see it below. So I definitely want to thank Allison so much for joining us today. This was very, very enlightening, and I think people really got a lot of good concrete things that they can use and unpack and work with. So I thank you for that. We're going to obviously ask you to continue to tune in. There's 21 days to our event, our Thrive Through Life Change event. So we have lots of speakers discussing a lot of different themes around life change and how to overcome these different transitions with success, energy, and a new and improved vision of life. So with that, we'll sign off, and thank you so much again, and we'll look forward to talking with you some more. And everyone have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.